Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good. I'm gonna shoot another little video today, speaking about this metamorphosis, this transition, this polarity shift, if you will. And I presume most people who are watching my videos are going through this transition, and that's the reason you're watching it, because it doesn't really have any kind of other value. But some, like a, I don't know, maybe like a little map or something. But anyway, um, it's difficult to communicate what I'm trying to communicate, and only the person who's going through it would understand, as someone else would just not really understand this. Like maybe they wouldn't even have the need for it. Um, Including all the people who are looking for something and seeking something. This is something I have to say something about the seeking, that on a soul level, when people are seeking something outside of themselves, but they they can't find that, the soul cannot be nourished with anything from the outside. So that's why it will never happen. But as soon as, instead of seeking this, they begin digging, which is what I'm communicating in almost all my videos, and it is that turning your attention upon itself. Really, that's what it is. Like you turn your attention on the thing that is what you would call negative feeling. Essentially, you want to get to that point where your attention is calm, almost always there, and that is becomes like a self-correcting mechanism, and essentially you fire up that nuclear reactor that runs all your energy and everything else. And to fire up that bad boy, it takes time, and it takes mastery of this type of tuning, because you have to go by feel. It's like I said, like you can't really write a book about it. The book can only tell you like very limited and binary type of communication. And how do you communicate quantum through the binary, right? Unless you indicate something between 1 and a 0, which is exactly that type of tuning that I've been talking about. Becoming attentive of what that thing is, that something that feels off in your body, and between the spaceness that you're in, basically becoming between that space and that point, and you gotta keep on being in between there, and it does its magic, simply put. But now, zooming out a little bit to more practical means, and to illustrate like what's normally going on, is that whenever your ego goes away, right? Because the way I describe ego is a belief system. Uh, there is a skill system which is totally supposed to be developed, but the ego system is something that should be dismantled. And but the thing is that you would say like, why do I have that belief system? It's because based the way I see it, as soon as you boot this video game, you kind of inherit all these belief systems, and only then you can go through it and see like, oh, this doesn't kind of fit, and little by little kind of dismantling them and turning from the belief system to the truth, in this way fulfilling your soul desire. And of course, most of that system has to be turned into what you would call a tree of life, which is like almost like a plasma, which is before the matter happens. Like your heart is always needs to be pure, like that black hole in a neutron star kind of thing. That's the point of your heart. It's supposed to be tuned to that type of essence. It's not supposed to be there. Nothing else supposed to be there. You see. and then it produces a certain type of energy that goes into your mind and the body that allows you to create and play. Okay, but everything starts with these belief systems and therefore conflict. Okay, but if you have a desire to play this game of life the way it's supposed to be played, it's not difficult to understand of how it's being played. Like I'm communicating like at the seed level of how to play. It's just basically turning attention upon itself, so to speak, or I should say maybe something more simply. Any kind of negative feeling that is inside of you that asks to be pacified in some way externally can be looked at with your attention, and if it's done uh, consistently and long enough, the magic begins to happen. The soul uh, taps into the energies that we've always been looking for. Now, during this process, what usually happens is like, why, for example, some people are so afraid of letting go of their belief systems, and it's a scary thing because if you let go of the belief system, then you have nothing to kind of hold on to, and then you fall into this reality of vulnerability where there could be pain, pressure, and all these negative feelings can arise. So by self-protection mechanism, uh, you just basically don't want to let go of these belief systems. And so that's an explanation of why people are holding on to this. And you say like, well, it makes no sense. It's not good for you. Why are you holding on to this? It's because when they're gonna let go, then they're gonna go into this world of that they're anticipating of pain and sorrow and suffering. And some people seem to not able to hold on to these belief systems and they fall into this sorrow and suffering, but they don't know what to do with it. And then it turns into some sort of finding the ways to pacify that, right? Not to suffer. And so then the addictions happen, which is a type of belief system also, but uh, it is it perhaps it's a different belief system than, like you're kind of fooling yourself and believing something, so then you have to look at it, but then you want to destroy that, you start facing it, and then the way to deal with it obviously correctly is like I've just been describing. But I can understand why some people don't go through it and just go into some like addiction, another pacifying mechanism. So but the point of it all is to, when I say this vulnerability, ego or belief systems can protect you from that pain, but also it is preventing you from feeling positive feelings, and therefore it's preventing you from your creative capacity from the feelings. That energy that you can create from the soul is prevented. It doesn't work. And so this is why you're not really contributing. If you're like using ego to defend your soul, you're not really contributing to the co-creation, if you will, of your soul desires, which are usually very compatible with other people who are choosing that path. There's no sense of competition, and that's just like a wonderful thing to do. You see, like, wow, this is like very collaborating type of endeavor, because there's no ego there. Now, but the process of it, like dismantling that belief system, does put you in a vulnerable position. Okay, and in that moment, you can choose alchemy or devotion, which you kind of use both in order to handle different types of negative feelings that are there, in order to turn them into the positive feelings. It's like you're burning the tree of knowledge in your heart, and that fertilizes the seed of life, and then the tree of life kind of is growing in your heart. So that's what's supposed to be in your soul. But some of those beliefs is then can be turned into the skill, which becomes your talent. And a talent is born is when some of your belief systems are applied onto skills, and the rest of it in the tree of knowledge, and then that brings an inspiration, and then through use of your skillful application, there is a form of art that is happening through you, whatever your soul wants to create through you. It's all about going to the creative and playful mode from the conflict based mode, really. I call it from the matrix to holistics. Okay, there's this metamorphosis that is a real place, the real thing, and it does include rewiring of your brain, because brain is this organism, and I mean, physically you can look at it as how it's structured, but really it's structured based on the electromagnetic structure of your consciousness. And whenever it's rewired in, so to speak, in the astral template, then it is rewired in the physical template also. And then it becomes this, almost like you get a new brain. Literally, you get a new brain. And so then you do go through the phases where you kind of feel like a baby, super vulnerable, and you got to kind of pace yourself. And in order to be this baby, but at the same time not be sort of like abused and used and hurt, you got to grow devotion. Through devotion and alchemy, you got to grow the side of the real love and the real power. And if you're more like a masculinely driven person, then it's going to be for you, it's going to be about power. And if you're feminine, it's going to be more devotion. But it's normally, I see that some devotion is still going to be necessary. Like a majority of your energy becomes power because it's already there. But some devotion is necessary, otherwise you're not going to be kind of balanced out, and vice versa. But I've noticed that in there is a limit of how much devotion can a man create if it's masculinely polarized, and is a limit of how much power a woman can create. And both of these states are neutral states. They're already coherent states. You see, the ultimate 0 point, ultimate stillness, that would be a complete, total devotional state of, peace, tranquility, serenity, that softness, that unifying field. And in the same intense version of that, same coherence, same balance out, neutral, but at a higher vibration, it's what you would call power. Okay? And so therefore, like that, if you're a masculinely polarized, your alchemical process is going to keep on growing that bliss state. Okay, you're going to have to still have some 0 point in order to balance that out. Okay, but what I touched on earlier about this soul primary function, not to seek but to dig, whereas the mind is different. Mind and body primary function is to seek. So it is correct for them to seek with the mind because it becomes intention, right? But it's not correct to seek with their heart because that's supposed to be attention. If you just apply a shred of intention, which means you apply some sort of imposition on what is, then it becomes a type of seeking movement, and then you cannot alchemize, and you cannot use devotion to transmute those energies. Okay, that's what would happen to you if you seek with your soul. So you don't. Um, and yes, you can say, well, there's soul has one side which is God, which the way I would describe God principle is peace, bliss, which is a coherent high vibration and coherent zero. Uh, but the other side of it, the other side of the soul, there is this what you know. There's already flowering to the mind and to the body, and in that motion, there, whenever there's just first shred of mind is appearing, the intention is being born, and then that's the you know drive to accomplish something, right? And in this case, it is okay. Now your mind is driving to accomplish something, not to fix the soul, but yet it is still driving to accomplish something. And what that is now is not to fix the soul, but to create something. You see? Desire is still there, but it's not the same desire. It's flipped on its head. It's different. Okay? It's not done out of fear, but it's done out of passion. It is not done out of like this dark passion, but it's done out of the bright passion, if you will. Okay? The energy is different. Before it was motivation, now it's inspiration. But the mind wants to move. The body wants to move also. You cannot stop that from happening. You shouldn't, you see, because the mistake some people may be making is that, well, since like accepting what is, that's all it is, then they sort of like suppressing the mind desire to move or the body desire to move. And then that's also a belief still. But if you really take that off and you just let everything happen the way it's supposed to happen, you'll notice that your mind wants to do shit. Your body wants to do shit. It's not enough to just be in this peace and bliss. It wants to make something out of it. Okay? And then the good question would be is like what's the damage or what's the drawback if you don't go ahead and create anything and you kind of suppress that process of creativity. um, I think that energy will just be put back into recycling again. um, but I want to say that is not healthy for the mind or the body. You see, body has to move, the mind has to move. So there's this stillness and silence, and it's that energy at the core, like it's almost like a star or the sun, which is completely still. And then as it goes out, it becomes increasingly motion driven. You see? And so that's how you want to be. You want to be like a lot of motion in the mind, a lot of motion in the body, but complete stillness and peace in your heart, or peace or bliss in your heart. Then that is exactly how everything's supposed to be. Okay? The problem is when there's a movement in, in the soul, then there's, to contain that movement, then you need a crust, right? Like, and so that it becomes the belief system and walls, as sometimes people call it, right? Okay. So again, it's just the movement of energy is kind of flipped open, right? It really is that simple. There's no something in between. It's either matrix or holistics. It's two modes of being. And so if you're in a matrix, changing a little bit something is not gonna change anything. It has to be complete transformation of your heart. Is who you are that changes. Now, as you're going through this process, I have to also say that um uh even if you're tuning in between to keep on, you know, recycling that matter that's not supposed to be in your heart and recycling it into the pure energy, uh, you seems to me that you are going through each of these belief systems that you kind of dismantling, turning into love and wisdom, and you're going through it. And it seems that there is a period of time where the infinite still have to keep on eating the temporal. Does that make sense? And it's almost like I don't know if you've seen these electromagnetic torus fields, and sometimes like these torus fields sort of like double, and runs at the top and runs at the bottom, and then some of those fields are already kind of runs throughout, and some still run in the center. I don't know if you know what I'm saying, but then sometimes you see like these centered ones that kind of detaches and then you joins the universal field, the big bubble, from double into unified. You see, and so every time that one releases and joins the unified, that's when you change the belief into the into the into the joint unified field, the infinite. And you're going to be doing this until all of these beliefs kind of disappear, but there's still going to be some process there that's left, that is necessary. You don't eradicate all of it. Just at the top of just the top of my head, you still have to have a small degree of percentage of your energy moving in development and how to say, development and maintenance of the skills, which is a memory and knowledge. Okay. So that's why there's no complete, like, you don't become actual baby, you know. You your heart is that of a baby, you see, and the mind is that of a sage, if you will, and the body is that of a whatever. Anyway, I'm just talking right now out of certain orifices of my body, but anyway. But the message that I'm trying to send here is quite clear. And when you are experiencing, for example, these negative feelings, for example, if you go out, right, and there's people around you, and you have no quote unquote protection, there's no ego anymore. So when somebody enters your field, they're just like, start disorganizing your field because you have no protection for that particular energy. And that gives you an opportunity to alchemize that particular energy. And then when the same person will come into your field, it's not doing that to you anymore. It's not affecting you. See, this is why sometimes people say, like, well, nobody's making you react a certain way. It's like you choose to do this, but you don't really choose to do it. It happens to you, but it should happen only once for the sake of alchemizing it. You see? This is why it's okay to get triggered and use all of that energy for the alchemy to move that energy into the right way, and it becomes a type of boundary. And so then their energy that are not really affecting you. Now you actually have a real, alive boundary not static one that is based on belief system, which just says like, well, according to my calculations and my policy, I'm going to be doing this with this person and not to this with this. Is like this, like, and it's just trying to create a sort of like a logical world of how you're going to interact with people, and it's not like that. You're supposed to be interacting with boundaries that are alive. There's one type of behavior that is going to happen in one situation with the same person, and is going another in another situation with the same person. So if you have a rule, which is a belief, is just like, well, I don't do with this type of people or whatever, then it's not real boundary. It's you're missing a lot on life by having that type of boundary. But this type of boundary, the alchemical boundary, it's alive. It's not static. It adapts to based to the situation that you're in, on the people that you're with, and the situation that you're with. These boundaries are alive, and this is why static boundaries can never work well, because they're static and they're not spontaneously conditional to the real time scenarios and energy vibes around you. But when you have that type of arrangement within your soul, and then you go out, your energy does everything automatically. It pushes the wrong people away from you, attracts the right people away from the right people to you, or the people in the right state of mind are being attracted to you. The people in the wrong state of mind are being pushed away from you. It just starts organizing everything for you. While for you it feels peaceful and blissful to be around these people that before you were looking at as somebody toxic and whatnot. Okay, and if they approach with the energy that is kind of trying to steal your energy or whatever, then they can't do it. There's just no way that they can take it anymore, and so then they kind of, oh, there's nothing that I can do, and they leave. Now of course it all happens, sometimes most of the time it happens subconsciously, and very few people that are actually very conscious vampires of energy. But most people are not conscious. They just like stand and see if they can siphon your energy, or it's like they either siphon your energy or they are planting their shit into you, sort of like the succubus incubus type of scenario, right? Sucks the energy out of you or put the dirty energy into you. But when you have that type of right type of boundaries and right type of openness that is alive, not static, it does that for you, if that makes sense, right? So the point of it all is that why do you want to meet all sorts of people in your life is obviously alchemical reason, because this way you can grow your soul that is sort of like adapted to each possible types of energies, if you will. And in previous video I said that there are like just like there are four elements, there are four types of distortions of one or the other type of energy center, really, so. And it appears that we gotta kind of go through all of them. The tool is always the same, devotion and alchemy, which is your attention and awareness. But this metamorphosis process, even though the only way it's facilitated is when you are in the infinite, yet there's time. I mean, your brain can change quite fast, but it doesn't change that fast. You see, like you can change the state of mind instantly, and then you can be in the state of peace and bliss and whatnot. But then your mind, your brain, to be rewired to hold that type of these types of vibrations, type of frequency, takes time. Okay, because you live in a temporal reality. It may be fast, but it does take time. Because, like I said, you're getting a new brain. You're gonna get a new brain. The way it's wired is gonna be different. This part of your brain is going to be like a baby's brain. This part of your brain is going to be very developed on the skills and all these other things um, that are necessary where the knowledge is supposed to be. All of that can be seen in your brain. So I hope I'm making sense here. Another thing I have to say now, when you're going through this metamorphosis state, I don't know how long it usually takes. Uh, some people report that uh, they sort of like most of the time they just stayed in that state for kind of 2 years and did very little until they had an inspiration to do something, because it was just like the brain is rewiring to be to sort of operate in a new way, like a new operating system and whatnot that is quantum based, not binary, if you will. And then only then they are excited about doing something. This everybody is different, and time scales are different for everybody as well. But that metamorphosis, I'm sure that exists. Even if that change happens to you permanent in a soul level, it's gonna take some time until your brain is going to be sort of reflecting that. There still sometimes could be like even the root is no longer there. There's some habits that's sort of like vestigial habits that are there, and then you kind of look at it, it's like, why am I doing this again? Like, huh? And it's like, yeah, I used to do this because it would just fix something inside of me, but now why the fuck am I doing this? It's just like a vestigial habit. It doesn't it's not attached to anything anymore. And then eventually you realize that it's not giving you anything anymore, and so that habit kind of goes away. And hopefully it's replaced by the another habit, which is again like, as I'm saying, it's very simple. It is um, creation of skillful and patterns, and maintenance of these patterns. It's a tech type of the tech tree, if you will, or the tree of knowledge, where you're placing that knowledge where it's supposed to be. You see? And that's what makes your brain happy, because you're not asking brain to do nothing. And that's what makes your mind happy, because the mind will always have the desire to imagine things. And so there is a type of seeking in your imagination. You can look, okay, I want this form, I want that form. You have preferences. Mind has always preference, and mind always has these types of seeking for something, and it's totally fine. It's totally fine to seek in the mind. Um, but it will never, obviously, the seeking in the mind does not fix this, the soul desire to be connected to the infinite. Okay? But anyway, the general message of this story is that uh, when you remove all the belief systems, you become super vulnerable to these effects that may be painful from other people, because that's relationships. But then through alchemy, you're gaining new boundaries and correct type of openness that is spontaneously formed. I don't know exactly how it is, but it just has like this perfect uh, entropy reducing mechanism, if you will. It's alive. That's what makes it alive, not static. Because it's like reacting to the ambient energy in a completely perfect and appropriate ways. Okay, and yes, you're gonna have to, if you're kind of really good at it, and you can do it like little by little, and alchemize little by little to see that, oh, you can actually do it, and then allow yourself a little more, and based on your pace, you do this. But you look little by little, you let go of your belief system, your ego, and for the moment, there's going to be some feeling that is going to be kind of painful that arising in you, whether it's triggered by a person, by just time or whatever. Boom. But now you know what to do with it. But you see, the the barrier to go through it is such a tricky thing, because mind would not normally accept this scenario where you say like, well, if we let go of the belief system, then we're gonna get hurt. But then, it doesn't realize that the belief system in itself, all the way to the root, is what's causing that hurt. So if you rid of the belief system all the way to the root, that hurt goes away. But there might be a process that you're going, like I said, to go to the root, to the seed of the tree of knowledge, which is the belief. Once you dissolve that seed, that pain or that suffering or sorrow goes away. Like I said in the previous video, the tree is this thoughts, right? And then you have emotions, and then you have feelings. And negative thoughts that are running, guess what? They have to come from somewhere. There has to be a seed there. You trace it back to the emotions, and then you trace it back to the feeling. And once you find that feeling, then now you can do the alchemical process to completely to dissolve that. Okay? And so, to me, there's absolute kind of certainty that that's the way it works, and it's every time it's okay. But when you go on letting go of the belief system, you have to be ready to completely let go. You cannot leave a little bit. You cannot change the mind on the way. It's the same thing as similar thing, I should say. While smoking, for example, DMT, when you smoke it, there is a complete dissolution of what you would call, belief system. The way you experience yourself as you kind of becomes dissolving. And so what you can say is, you can say like, well, stop it, I don't want this anymore. Too late. You went on this journey. And if you resist it, that resistance may not clear everything away, which is usually, that's why DMT is so powerful, that it doesn't really ask your opinion. If you took it enough, you cannot resist it. The ego cannot resist it, and that is correct. It is a very bad scenario when there is almost complete dissolution of the ego, but there's still resistance there. And so then there's just more like of a re-injury of that wound, if you will, which creates even stronger belief system, and delays this metamorphosis process that we're here to go through. Yeah, and that's probably best thing that I could say about this is, if you decided, you made the choice, then is a complete and total openness necessary to dissolve it. And yes, there might be something, something, for example, that feels like venom or poison that is kind of in your body, and it's like, why would I accept this? This is, but if you reject it, it's going to linger there and create a toxicity, bad thoughts and all that stuff. You're going to say, all right, I'm going to process this also, all of it. You trust that there's no matter that cannot be processed by this complete zero point, which you can access in complete and total surrender, and the power, which is courage. Okay. And sometimes, look, I have to say that sometimes I the mistakes that I make, which I don't want to do this same mistake. I don't want to do these same mistakes again, because when you're going through this process, and when your brain is so kind of fragile and kind of vulnerable, during these moments, it's best not to take any kind of alcohol or weed or whatever. There are times to do this, but this usually after the process is done. And then you go by the feel, and you know, like, okay, this is not a good time to take it, so you don't take it. Right? You do not take it when you are going in public, where you're open. You do not take it, during times where it does feel like, all you're completely vulnerable. You don't take it during those times, because what may happen is that you may be accidentally open to something stronger that you can handle at the time. Um, and you don't want that. You don't want to shut yourself off. There is like a very clear movement of energy that you don't want to shut yourself off from. And I feel it, for example, when I go out in the public and then I come back home. I feel it like this gravity is trying to push me away from this normal operating way. But I keep my attention on that thing that is trying to take me off, and I do my due diligence. And sometimes, if there's some strong energy that entered me, and I have to alchemize it, and sometimes it takes me like, a couple of days to do this, but I do this. And then next time, of course, I tend not to take alcohol or weed when I'm going out. But in certain times where I'm not in the public and I'm with the people that I can trust, and I know their energy and everything's fine, and at my own safe zone, then kind of it's not a problem. It's just enhances the enjoyment, and not really creates these alchemical situations that may be too strong. Okay. This is why, uh, if you're going through this process, you got to be careful with psychedelics. They're not really necessary anymore, because if you take them, their openness maybe is more than you can handle it. And like I said before, you can be. This process is such a tricky thing, is because that if you haven't, this is like a building a house. If you fuck up your foundation, whatever you build on top of it is just gonna have to go. So you better have like really nice foundation laid out before you start building something. This is one of the reasons why I don't embark on any kind of more project that I can handle, because of the foundation of stability of my own uh, spiritual and mental energy. That's the foundation. That's the seed. Um, and you feel it, how stable you are. But if you you go out and you hang out with the people, and then you come back and you're like, oh my god, this is just like a 2 days of worth of alchemy that I have to do now, then you're probably not that stable yet. You need to stabilize that vibration, if you will. Okay. Because a temporary or a momentary state of that peace bliss, it's nice, but it's not stable. Anything that you're going to start building on that is going to collapse. This is why it's not worth it. Okay. And memory, by the way, even your skills are very related to the vibration of your heart. And so sometimes when you're in the right state in your heart, the memory is super sharp and the skill application is very easy, and you remember everything very easily because the memory is a vibration, you see. And so if you try to learn something, but your heart is not yet stable, uh, you're gonna forget all of that stuff. It has to be done on the right type of resonance that is stable. Then, not only that you're not gonna forget about this stuff, it's going to be uh, ingrained in you, that it's kind of becomes like automated, right? It becomes almost like one process of your soul energy into skillful application. It just becomes like one thing. You don't think about it anymore. It just happens. So anyway, that's it for today, guys. Hopefully it made sense. Peace, and I'll see you in the next one.